Hey, Team Phoenix, welcome back to another show. Very happy you're here. Either if you're live on YouTube, on LinkedIn, welcome. Shoot your questions, shoot your comments during the show. That's important to us. And I'm so grateful to introduce my guest today. This is Todd Janzen. He's Global VP Solution Engineering at Salesforce. And yeah, I think you're kind of, how should I call it? Your operation or your organization is called Q Branch, right? That's very interesting. How are you, Todd?
I'm doing really, really good. Thank you for having me. Real pleasure to be here. I know, we've connected throughout the year, and it's been really good getting to know you. And so just honored to be here.
Why don't you tell us a bit about you and your job and your interesting name of your organization?
Yeah, so I started as a solution engineer at Salesforce back in 2005, 2004, and did that job for about 3.5 years. And right around the tail end of that, Salesforce came out with its own programming language, a language called Apex, which is very kind of Java based. And I found myself back at my desk, hacking through Java, engineer by education, but not a developer, better in things like SQL and some other languages, and Java wasn't my thing. And I was frustrated. I was really mad that I wasn't spending time with customers and this company that I joined. And I loved Salesforce so much because you could do so much with point and click and workflows. All of a sudden I was hacking code. And so really it was a napkin idea to say, like, there should be a team that does this so that I can stay in front of customers. And that was really the beginning of Q Branch. And we've since kind of looked at a lot of things that either SEs don't like doing or maybe are not great at. And we've tried to take that off their plate. And that ranges from scalable demos, so maintaining all the demo environments that we use at Salesforce, to tools. So what are the tools that help you prep a demo fast? Right? You spin up a new demo environment and you're like, oh, all those addresses are, in the US or in Canada. Well, I'm in Germany. How do I click a button and make everything look German? So that'd be an example of a tool. And then everything to deal support. So tackling RFPs, high glossy presentations for CEOs, movie-like trailer videos for executives. So that's kind of what it's become over the last 14 years. And we called it Q Branch, which felt like a huge risk at the time, but I think it really resonates with the pre-sales population. And everyone, I think, gets the James Bond reference. And yes, it's there. Q is kind of the behind the scenes intelligence, which is perfect, but Q is a real thing in real life. It's short for quartermaster. And in an army, the quartermaster is someone that arms the troops. And again, it's kind of a perfect metaphor for what we do. In the Navy, interestingly enough, the quartermaster navigates the ship. And there is a division of Q Branch that does help our sales teams navigate some of their bigger deals.
Quartermaster, I haven't thought of that. I was at the Army too, so it resonates. I know exactly what you mean. That's cool. So everybody on LinkedIn Live or YouTube Live, please shoot your comments, right? Those are really interesting topics. So if I understand you correctly, Todd, you actually worked on this automation we see now in the market coming up like 14 years ago, you said?
Yeah, and some of these tools predate to when I was a solution engineer, just individual. I would get in the room with some people and be like, hey, have you noticed how long it takes to load data or make that dashboard actually look like the customer? I mean, it's taken me 2 hours. Could we change 5 records in a demo environment, have that cascade all the way through, hit refresh on that dashboard, and that customer thinks that you were up all night loading their data?
Yeah.
And so some of those concepts go back 16, 17 years. And again, I think, we talked about this a little earlier. It really just stemmed from I hate waste. I love efficiency. And so I constantly look at things through a lens of like, how could we do it better? How could we do it more scalable? How can we save people time? So that fueled a lot of these tools, but it also fueled kind of the idea of Q Branch.
And there's a question that that actually bothers me because it's adoption. It's adoption. I think adoption is the right word. I'm sure, or no, I'm sure. What I want to know is actually how easy is this to scale this in an organization like yours, and how often do pre-sales say, why don't you let me do it the old way or the way I'm used to do it, like handish, not like creating stuff myself in an analog way.
Yeah, and I think back in the day it was really easy. I mean, the known universe of solution engineers was pretty small. We all knew each other. And it was really kind of an incredible time. I remember, oh gosh, the expert for pharma, it's this guy named Howard, and he's over in London. It's like, I call him up and he's like happy to talk to me. And 30 minutes later, I'm a semi-expert in pharma. So it was a lot easier back then. It's a lot harder now. So you need to do things like when, someone creates a new demo environment, the first page they see is kind of that menu of options of ways to save yourself time. But I mean, yeah, I mean, some people are stubborn. They're going to continue to do things the old way, but I just don't think, I think if the pandemic's told us anything is you have to change. You have to change.
Yeah. And do you have or have you found some unique benefits or things you tell people to change? I guess it's tough to convince, right? Is it by implementing it, just like you go for it, or you build like champions that lead then the crowd, or is there a good way? So because you scaled it across a huge organization, right?
Yeah, and I think solution engineering is an interesting profession because I think we do kind of live on the bleeding edge a lot, right? We're willing to try new things. We do evolve, I think, really, really fast, and continuous learning is part of it. So, there's always going to be the laggards, but I think as a whole, I think we're pretty good. I think we're pretty good as a profession. I mean, it's one of the reasons I love our profession is but yeah, you're always going to find people stuck in their ways, and sometimes. Look, I think the carrot is always the best approach, right?
The carrot.
The carrot. Make it enticing for them. Explain the value to them up front. I think very rarely in my past have I gone the stick approach, and that might be like running a report and saying like, "Hey, here's all the people on your team that haven't created a new demo environment in the last 2 years," which tells me they're demoing features from 2 years ago. Could be a problem.
Yeah.
That's pretty rare to do that. No one really likes that approach.
Yeah, and obviously we are we are automating stuff that we want, so that people can use their time more effectively, right? What do you think are actually foundational skills of a sales engineer, right? If you bring in new tools, there's more time to professionalize, maybe on different pillars even of their craft. What do you think is foundational for an SE?
The foundation, yeah. The foundation for me is curiosity. I think, that is number one. I think everything else you can teach and you can train, but if you don't have someone who's naturally curious and wants to know more, then the continuous education piece doesn't, fall next. There can be some arrogance, right? The kind of I know everything. So I think curiosity is foundational. And I think if you put all of us in a room in the profession, I think that would be the common theme. Is kind of deep curiosity. So that's absolutely it. The second part of your question, because I was so wrapped up in curiosity, remind me the second part of that.
I mean, yeah, one part is curiosity that's driven internally, right? Another thing might be what's another pillar I should focus on. Now I have time. Which skill should I really build? Most likely, it's not. I'm very provocative now. It's not the demo skill, right? Because this is what we want to automate, in some way, or answering RFPs, right? this is all to be automated. So what's the skill then that I use the time for to build?
I love the question. I love the question because we'll probably talk a little bit more about some of the software that's out there and what it can do for people. But you're right. So you get some time back. What do you do with it? So it's discovery, right? And I think that's hand in hand with curiosity. Those that are naturally curious do great discovery. I would also say that you have to do discovery from a bit of a business mind, right? I used to talk to SEs about, the basics of a demo, and a lot of people do discovery and they're building the demo at the same time. So they're asking questions that allow them to build the demo in their head right then and there. They're trying to shortcut the process. And a lot of SEs do that, and that's fine, but great SEs take it a next step further. So they're not just asking like, what are the problems? They're asking, what are the impacts of those problems? Because we've all been there, right? You might be doing discovery and someone rattles off 20 problems. And so you highlighted to, you're like, wow, those seem like big deals. And they're like, oh no, that was just something that happened yesterday. It's just top of mind, not that big of a deal. Okay. Let's talk about the ones that are actually having an impact on your business. So kind of that next step of not just asking what's wrong, what's the impact? And then the last step is value. And we hear about it a lot, but I think if you are not bringing things back to dollars and cents, and I'll never forget this training that we did, what is the business impact? There are only two business impacts in all of business: increase revenue, reduce cost. That's it. Everything boils into those two categories. And so if you're not doing discovery, and if you're not eventually wrapping that into your talk track of, hey, and everything I just showed you is going to help increase your revenue by X, or everything I just showed you is going to help decrease your cost by Y. If you're not getting there, you're just good. You're not great.
And what about,
get off on a tangent a bit?
no, that's fine. But what if? What about? Okay, cost. I got it. What about people that want to have a career, right? And maybe use a tool to actually do that. You're selling a tool. Is this a third bucket, or do you think it belongs in one of the two?
It's a good question. And what I should do is okay, great discovery leads to a great demo. And I think everyone knows Peter Cohen out there. Like, everyone needs to read that book. It's an audio book as well, if you don't want to, or listen to him on some of these podcasts. Great discovery is going to lead to a great demo, but you also have to work on your showmanship, right? You have to work on that performance. And so a lot of what Peter talks about is like, you got to show the big idea, the so what, who cares? You got to show that first. Show the big thing first, right? Get people enticed and locked in. And so I think, the second piece of it is, if you have more time, you have to focus on your delivery. You have to focus on capturing people's attention, keeping people engaged. And the piece that, you were just asking is, we used to do that all live in front of customers. And I'll say live being physically there, but also live over technology like Zoom or like what we're using today. There is a new skill that's emerging that I think we really need to embrace, and that is kind of the recorded demo. And that is a very different skill, I think, than just doing a live demo in front of a customer.
Yeah.
Live demo in front of a customer, you might have 45 minutes, you might have 2 hours. Sending in a recorded demo is, you have to think in terms of 3-minute short snippets, and it better be punchy. It better be there better be value in there. There better be some differentiation in there, and that is something I think we need to evolve and learn better. And it's just emerging, right? So I don't want anyone to panic, being like, "Oh, I'm behind." I think it's the future. I think SE of the future needs to think about those things. Is, yes, use a performer on stage for 45 minutes, and I think we'd all agree, like, it's part of why we love this profession, right? We're a bit bit musicians and like that. But we also need to think about, okay, not everyone is going to get to that point where you get on stage for 45 minutes. Early in the buying cycle, people just want to see your product. They just want to say, like, I've heard good things. Can I just see it? And I think it's something that we need to think about, because a lot of people are not going to have the patience to walk through 3 rounds of qualification, 2 discovery sessions to get their first demo of your product.
Yeah. I would go even a step further and say it's a new role inside the team. So, and my belief, sales engineering teams will differentiate roles, and the automated demo expert has different skill sets, right? He or she needs to be a storyteller. Definitely. Boil down a story framework in 1 minute video, right? Getting a punchy line. It must be entertaining so you don't lose clients and you can actually stack them to each other, right? I do little things with my clients sometimes, creating a teaser video that's 30 minutes to 60 seconds, right? And some said, oh, that's amazing. I will put this into consensus now. Patrick, great one, right? So it spawns the interest. It's already there if you give them some tools, but you don't get them on the normal job, right? In some way.
Yeah, I'm so glad you're bringing this up, because I was just on a call before this call where we are kind of going across all the different regions. And they are hiring for that profile, or they've taken a solution engineer that has that profile and said, hey, your job's going to look a little different for the next year. And so I think you're right. Like, you don't need the entire team to be doing that, but you do have to have that skill set. And so there's a gentleman at Salesforce here. He's quite widely known within our community. He'll do a couple webinars a week, and he has just this incredible loyal following. His name's Iman Magrury, and what's amazing about what he does is, one, he's the showman of showmans, right? Like, you cannot get bored watching this individual perform. But he breaks things down in just common terms. He strips all the marketing jargon away from our products, away from the company, and he just talks to you in a way that anyone could understand. And I think that is really key, right? And it makes him human, it makes him relatable, and people really feel like he's on their side. And so I'm so glad you brought that up, because, you know, I don't think you have to convert the whole team, but you do need to start building this skill.
Yeah, and I truly believe that's not only this role, right? It's who goes into a C-level meeting, right? Who talks to the architects? Who describes the art of the possible? Who is a visionary, right? Those are all different traits in the team that you need, and of course you need the more technical people, right? So that's a huge thing, and I think it's happening a lot, especially when sales engineers are not really knowing what's my place now in this team, right? If there's still, like, how do I best use my strengths? And I think this new tools can be amazing opportunities, right? Okay, I will do this with consensus, for example, right? I will automate demos.
Yeah.
That's the thing.
Yeah. And I'm so glad you're talking about consensus. For anyone that's heard me before, you know, I talk a lot about that. You know, we're using it in Salesforce. Incredible tool. I think it's changing our industry. I think it's not only just changing the pre-sales profession, but I think it's changing the way we sell. And it's, you know, and there's a lot of tools out there that are coming on the market that are blowing my mind, but I think that's one great example of it's perfectly timed to where we're at and how buyers want to buy. And I think it's just perfect for that.
Yeah. No, amazing. And you make a great journey. I think you told me in the last 18 months, you started speaking, right? You had this engagement, and you're really known as a VIP in the pre-sales community. So I remember DemoFest last year, you had the keynote, right? how did this come? So how did you get on this social exposure on this journey?
I have no idea.
Great.
And people actually might find this surprising. Me speaking, publicly outside of my company has really only happened in the last 18 months. And Patrick, I read your book, and so much of it is relatable in that book to my journey. And early in the book, it talks about like so much of my identity was tied to Salesforce. And so I felt like anytime I stepped outside of the company and I spoke, the Salesforce logo was right next to me.
Yeah.
And so I did a webinar for Pre-Sales Collective, filled out all the right forms to make sure the company was okay with me speaking. And what I realized is I wasn't really speaking about Salesforce. I was really just speaking about my own expertise and my own experience. And that can be separate from the company you work for. And I think that was kind of the light bulb moment for me of like something I was so afraid of, right? Going out and speaking and representing the company and, oh my gosh, am I going to give away secrets or, you don't have to do that. You can actually just speak from your own individual perspective, and that's okay. And so I think that was my first light bulb moment.
Cool.
And then started getting invited to more webinars and podcasts, and then had a loose idea to go present at Demo Fest, which is kind of the conference for SEs at this point. And they wrote me back and they're like, yeah, we'd like you to do the keynote. And that was a very scary moment for me. If I'm just being very real and transparent, I'd never done anything like that before. Again, very new on this journey. And yeah, I mean, it made me really nervous. Cause I didn't feel worthy. We talk about imposter syndrome a lot in this industry. Big time, super big time. And so I quickly realized that if I was going to be credible on a keynote, well, I better drum up a lot of facts. My expertise and my experience is only going to take things so far. I needed to go do a lot of research. And I think that's what started to give me some confidence of, okay, like I'm really just bringing insights to people in the industry, and I'm just sharing things that are out there and kind of bringing it together into a story. Something you're probably really familiar with. Doing deep research is not something I'd done in a while. I mean, if you call university or college doing a lot of research, so it was flexing a muscle that was very new and very old and painful.
Yeah, but amazing result. So it was a great keynote. And without this keynote, we two wouldn't have talked because you reached out to me because of the keynote, which I'm still thankful for, right? It was a great honor.
Yeah, well, in doing this research and talking to a lot of people, by the way, that was also part of it, was just talking to people like yourself, and came across that map. I think it was James Kakis over at Pre-Sales Collective. He's like, have you seen this map? And he showed it to me, and I was like, oh, this is so cool. And I think that, and that's something actually we could talk about today if you want. I've been getting a lot of calls from VCs. Some of them are friends that have gotten to the VC business, and they're very interested in the pre-sales space. And if I had to guess at this point, there's probably 400 million in VC funding being poured into pre-sales apps. That's incredible. So I'm fielding some calls from VCs that are very interested in this space, and they're like, well, who do you like? Who are you using? And so go through that list, and then I go, well, if you want to know all the players in the space, let me drop this map on you. And their heads explode, right? They're just like, this is incredible. So you are doing kind of a huge service for our profession and our industry. And lately, what I've been thinking about this year is, well, that's cool that there's 25. I don't know, you probably know more of the count, pre-sales apps out there. Some of these I call them imposter apps. Because they're really kind of targeting marketing, but they're like, yeah, we can do some pre-sale stuff too. So, I think there will be a list that comes out, or there will be some distinction someday of like, no, this is for pre-sales. That'll make me happy. But I got to thinking, we can celebrate the number of pre-sales apps out there.
Yeah.
We can celebrate the number of venture capital funds being invested. But at some point, we have to buy these apps as a profession.
Yeah.
Right? We have to use these apps. And, that has been a big shift for QBranch is, 14 years ago, we were building these apps from scratch, very proprietary, very in-house, very unique to us. And now you can go pull something off the shelf that does that for your business. And so we are starting to build our portfolio of solution apps and bring them in-house. And so, talk about consensus, that's one. Ovnio is another one. So we are working with Ovnio, and that is going to be our RFP tool of choice for Salesforce.
Yeah. Maybe you have seen it. So in my past, I sold middleware, and so you acquired MuleSoft. I worked there. And what we always pitched with clients was a kind of development lifecycle, so integration or development lifecycle. And this was actually the first idea I had for the map. Like, there was a very boring lifecycle. Like, you start in your presets life, right? Maybe there is the CRM piece, which is Vivint, then you hand this over into consensus, right, to get out the videos, whatever, to your prospects, and then handling the RFP with Avnio, right? So you get a nice cycle, actually, a life cycle of things you do in your presets life, right, that gets automated. Right? But I saw this and I thought it's boring. Then I put it on the map. But the idea still resides in me. So I think those apps should really recognize also other apps. So we can integrate them with each other and flesh out the real value, right? So the synergy of all those apps. Yeah. But that's, of course, for later, right? The stage is too early. But, yeah.
I mean, you bring up such an interesting point, and the VCs that I talked to mentioned this as well. Is we are so early in all of this, right? We are right at the beginning. So if you're hearing this and you're feeling like you're out of the dark, you're probably not. But definitely get educated on the map. That's, I think, a great place to start. But we are so early in this journey, and as I talk to some of the different CEOs of these companies, they're asking for intros to these other apps, right? And so it's going to take a while, to your point, but the leaders of the industry are starting to think that way already, right? And what is the full life cycle? And by the way, we're using MuleSoft to pull things from the Consensus API and other things. So,
of course you do.
I'm not saying, yeah. So, anyway, I'm just going to pause here because sometimes silence emphasizes your point.
Yep.
We are just in such an exciting time.
We definitely are. And I mean, we have half time now. So, and it's take a sip of a coffee. I love the conversation because we speak really strategically about the transformation of our role. Do you see like core transformation going on? I have three. Maybe we can talk about those three. But I don't want to bias you.
No, and I think it's important for people listening to this. You and I don't script this.
No,
and so
that's completely
we didn't come in. Yeah, we didn't come with an agenda, which frankly, as a presenter, sometimes is super scary. So, but anyway,
I hope you enjoy it.
It's great. Yeah. I hope you enjoy it. But yeah, let's go for it.
Yeah, the question still remains. Do you think there's one or more really transformations going on in the market that you see, like pre-sales changes significantly?
I hope so. And I say that because sometimes I wonder, I'm like, man, Todd, are you living in a bubble because you listen to the pre-sales podcasts every week? I listen to Pre-Sales Collective every week. I listen to 2 pre-sales on a pod. I talk to a lot of different leaders. I talk to these vendors, and I'm like, are we just making this up, right? And I think the encouraging thing is as much as we in the profession want things to change, it's a little bit out of our hands, and that's a good thing because what's driving the change is our buyer. The buyer is really changing things. The way people buy things from us is changing. And we could go on and on about this, but simply put, traditional B2B sales cycle, you're going to go to a website. You're probably not going to find any level of depth that you want. You're going to click the schedule a meeting button, which you're then going to get on the phone with someone that doesn't know much about the product, and they're qualifying you. They're going to flip you to a salesperson who's going to qualify you again. And if you're lucky, it's 3 weeks later and you're doing discovery and maybe getting your first demo. Okay, that's the last 25 years of software selling. And I think about how many apps and tools and how much money was made in that cycle I just described. And that is not necessarily going to cut it going forward. And in my keynote, I talked about COVID-19 accelerated 10 years of U.S. e-commerce growth, accelerated e-commerce growth in 10 years in 90 days. And so that's great. Data's great. But we know this to be true because our parents and grandparents started ordering groceries from their mobile phone. And so we, I don't know what the stat is, but on average, someone, does 2.5 minutes of research on Amazon before they hit the buy button. People are buying homes, the most expensive purchasing decision of their lives, with a home they never saw, that they did a virtual tour on. They're doing it without real estate agents. And so I'm not sitting here to imply that the salesperson or the SE role is going away. Quite different. I think we just need to evolve, and we actually need to put the buyer first. And if you read LinkedIn's State of Sales 2021, if you read that report, it's a great quick read. A lot of what they're talking about, what turns off a buyer, is you don't know the product. You do something deceptive. And so people want to talk to knowledgeable people up front in the sales cycle. And if all possible, they want to do their own research without talking to you at all. And so my point being is, as much as we want things to change, we're not the driver of the change, it's actually the buyer. And I think we need to adapt. I think we need to be part of that new normal. And I think we are uniquely positioned, as James Kakis often says, like, we are the buyer-centric team. And we've always been buyer-centric, right? And we're about integrity, we're about truth, we're about everything the buyer wants. And some of the research that John Kerr's done, when you ask the buyer, who do they want to hear from? Where's the value in the sales cycle? It is pre-sales. And so we're uniquely positioned. I think we just have to seize the moment.
Yeah.
I'm getting off my soapbox. Sorry, I got up there pretty high.
No. It was amazing, and it spawned so many ideas. Because when I think of Salesforce, I think of a category design, behemoth, a king, right? Someone who did this amazingly well. And this is not driven by buyers. Salesforce carved their own market, right? So they created their own niche, like CRM in the cloud. Siebel was the competitor, right? And they were pirates. That's different to, you say that's different to what happened like years ago, because category design is still happening, right? So for all those apps in pre-sales, category design, I think, is the methodology to go. Do we have a perspective on this? Like how does it fit together?
Yeah, it's interesting, right? Like the category design is still happening. And I think if I'm getting the question right, people are still putting tools like Consensus in the same bucket as a tool like DemoStack, right? Yeah. So one helps you build scalable demos, whether it's for POC or for SEs or for test drives on the website. And Consensus really drives this buyer enablement and video automation, and they're very different products, and they fit very different needs. But right now they're lumped in the same bucket of like category. So
not if you look at the
that
map,
is
right?
yeah. Well, that's the start of it, right? That's only going to get more mature as we get along. But that is what's hard. And my heart goes out to a lot of these startups in our industry is they're trying to differentiate. They are trying to sometimes define a new category of their own, which is very risky and very hard. Because you can go define a new category that doesn't resonate, or no one knows what you do, or no one cares. So all this is happening in real time right now, and it's fun and it's awesome. And if you're a founder of a company or a CEO, gosh, this has to be a scary time for you.
Yeah, that's a true situation. So I think it can. Yeah. So your own methodology spills over. For example, if you're selling like demo automation software, and where you show nice little video snippets, and there was a case when actually one person wanted to purchase it, but was forced to watch a video first, right? And so there is then this their own benefit becomes a burden, right? Because there was no access to the account executive to actually purchase it immediately, because you needed to go through this workflow, like watch this video, then talk to this SDR, then watch the video again, and then you get an AE, because then you through threshold or something, right? This gets them too weird, or am I wrong?
The best example I have of that, I think I talked about in my keynote. So Joe Caprio, one of the founders of Reprise, he wanted to buy some simple software. They called it $6,000 a year purchase, and got on the phone with what was probably an SDR or BDR, and he goes, "I just want to see the product." And the individual was like, "No, that's not how our process works. You need to first talk to me, and then we do this next, and then we do this next, and then I can show you the product." And Joe, this is from a podcast. He's like, "I bought and sold 2 homes during a pandemic without a human being. I don't need your sales process. I need a solution to my problem."
Yeah.
And it gets back to this point of we, to some degree, need to get out of our own way. And the buyer out there is savvy. The buyer out there is not necessarily evaluating your product between the hours of 8 and 5. If there's one thing that we're learning is that sometimes people put the kids to bed and then they're back online because maybe they took time out to cook their family dinner or work out during the middle of the day or spend time with their kids, and it's 8 o'clock and now they're ready to come back online, and that might be when they're evaluating your software. And so if you don't have an option for them to do that, if it's always, no, you got to talk to someone. If your competitor is 24/7 always on, or you have a product-led growth strategy to where someone can just try it right there, the buyer's going to go that direction. And maybe not now, right? But in the near future, especially as the newer generations are coming into the workforce. I always joke, like, I'm Gen X. I might click on that button on your website that says schedule a demo. No, I probably wouldn't. But millennials would probably not click that button. I guarantee you Gen Z is never going to click that button, right? No. They're not getting educated now or being able to try something now. There is just no way. So the buyer's changing rapidly. I think there was some research done about what generation is in the buying group. I think it was like millennials and Gen Z are like 40+% of the buying group right now. And that was up maybe 10 percentage points. I'm making this up, so no one quote me, but that was up like 10 percentage points from the year before. So, again, the point I'm trying to emphasize is, as much as I want our industry to change and us to be flexible and nimble, the buyer is really dictating this.
Absolutely. And what's the impact of social media on this whole thing for the individual, for the sales engineer? Will it become more important? So I think he spoke about a podcast you heard, or with a prediction for LinkedIn, like becoming more personal. Tell me that story again, please.
So 2 pre-sales in a pod.
Exactly.
Maybe it's two episodes ago, and I hope you don't mind the cross reference.
Yeah, of course. I love it. I was there also some episodes.
Yeah, that was a great episode as well. Episode 44, 2022 predictions. And I think one of the predictions was people are going to share more personal things on a platform like LinkedIn.
Yeah.
Really provocative. My initial reaction was, well, maybe people are just so sick of Facebook and untrustworthy of it that that's the new social media platform they're going to flock to. But in reading your book and that podcast, it really got me thinking, okay, when people go out to social media and look you up, right? Let's say you're working with a large account and people go to look you up. So thought leadership is absolutely one thing that I think is huge. And your book talks a lot about that. But maybe, and just maybe, they want to know if you're a human. They want to know if you're a good person. And so I like this idea, and I haven't done this yet. So, don't go thinking I'm an expert here, but someone goes out and looks at you on LinkedIn or connects with you, and they see an organization where you spend your time. Right? For me, spending time with organizations that help adults with developmental disabilities, that's my cause, right? And I frequently post about that on LinkedIn. So again, okay, this is where this person spends their time in their volunteer hours. Oh, there's a picture of them and their family. Okay, this is someone who has a family, or maybe someone who doesn't have a family, right? This is someone who has a husband. This is someone who has a wife. And so I think trust, right? Like there's a huge part to play with social media, and just when people do look you up, is this person a human? Do they have integrity? Are they a good person? I think people, they want to work with people that are good, right? We know this, right? People buy things from people they like. And so I think social media and a professional platform like LinkedIn might have a part to play there. We'll see.
Yeah, no, it's amazing. And when you look at very successful posts on LinkedIn, for example, it's true on other platforms too, but also LinkedIn that was recognized as like, for your resume, right? The platform for your resume, and your experiences. People write stories about themselves and drawing conclusions that fit their domain, right? So, and this is the most exciting content, because I see, this person is actually a human being and has a lot to say about their industry or their craft, right? And I think that's some of the key, being educational and entertaining in a personal way, right?
Yeah, I'll give you a great example. So for me, I still like Instagram because I'm pretty selective who I let in and see pictures of my family and whatnot. But for me, Facebook had really become almost like a LinkedIn. Like anyone I worked with that wanted to link, like boom, like let's do it. And so for me, before I really stopped using Facebook, was very much kind of professional. And I remember there was this global sales executive at Salesforce, and we connected. He accepted my request, and I was really kind of blown away. And then he would like pictures of my vacation and different things I was doing. And I just remember that feeling of like, okay, this person sees me more than just like what he knows at work. I mean, I can't describe the feeling, but it was just really good knowing that this person that's extremely high up, extremely successful, was seeing me outside of that. So I know there's something there. I don't know if LinkedIn's that platform, but that for me was almost more exciting than having to create some thought leadership. So I guess maybe an action item here is ease into the thought leadership stuff, because it can be hard. And like you said, you want to sleep on those articles a lot. And, before you hit post, there's a lot of anxiety with that, but maybe start simple.
Yeah. No, you should. I mean, I love this example. Like, say you're pitching your Salesforce, you're up against, I don't know, HubSpot, right? And HubSpot has a team of SCs. I mean, it doesn't fit, right? Just for the example. And they all upgrade their profiles with domain topics about domain insight, maybe a video about themselves, something that really gives some insight. So whenever a prospect visits this profile, they might even connect because they have a hook, they have something to ask for, right? So, and now what happens in the discovery call? You are there, the competition is there.
Yeah.
For them, it's a warm call, right? For your team, they now need to build up this rapport, right? Get to know each other, get used to each other. So this is a huge benefit, I think, already only because you had some content on your landing page, right?
Yeah, and to your point, I keep going back to pre-sales of the pod because they covered this in an episode. You know, just having like your dog in a picture, right? Maybe your dog is in your profile picture, or your cat, or whatever.
Yeah.
That is an avenue for discussion.
Yes.
Right? Like that is so it can really be anything, and start there. You know, going into today and having read your book, I was just thinking about how do people toe dip into kind of thought leadership, and you know, again, I'm very new on this journey as well. You know, you could post a meme about our industry, right?
Mm-hmm.
You could something that's so common to SEs, right? And I think about that big cargo ship that was stuck in the Suez Canal, right? So you can take a picture of that ship.
Take the story. Keep the story, please. Let's say hi to Adam. I mean, he's 2 pre-sales in the pod, right? Hey, Adam, great you're here, right? And he says, I keep my Facebook and Instagram separate too. Not that anybody would be interested in what I post. It's just my Peloton, right results. Okay, it's your bike. Okay, your home style, right? Yeah, great.
Yeah. So Adam's someone I've connected with over the last year. Incredible thought leader, and we have connected on Peloton, and he's you know, I'm now taking all the instructors that he takes, and yeah.
I have to get one too. So if you're all connected there, that seems to be the next LinkedIn, right? The bike.
There you go. Yeah.
Thank you, Adam. Thanks for your thoughts.
Yeah.
No, that's amazing.
Real quick, back to the meme, right? You could take a picture of that huge thing stuck in the Suez Canal, and you could just put like on that something that relates to all SEs, something like that demo where you said, "Let me show you one last feature." Right?
Yes.
Every SE in the world can relate to that demo where you're like, "Hey, let me show you one last thing," and it completely goes sideways. Right? So I think, you know, and you cover this in the book, like, do not feel like you have to like sit on some idea for a month and drop some huge thought bomb on LinkedIn and get 3 likes. Start small. There was someone last year, I can't remember the meme. She posted something on LinkedIn and it went viral in 3 days. I never heard of this person. I never heard of the company they work for, but all of a sudden, like, there she is in my mind. I'm like, legend. Pre-sales legend, you know?
Yeah. I mean, the trick is really to do that regularly, right? And the only way to do that is writing regularly and or posting or coming up with ideas, right? It's like playing roulette. You need to roll, right? So you hit this. You have a constant followership, right? And you keep the status. That doesn't mean daily, but I think you said before you need to be passionate about this. So could you elaborate about that? So what would you post about that? Or maybe what's a great idea for anybody to start?
Yeah. You in the book have this great quote that thought leaders write for the love of it. And it resonates because my biggest fear of speaking outside of Salesforce or posting things is that I didn't feel like an expert on anything. And then I started just, you know, posting things that I've done over the last 14, 17 years. And all of a sudden people found value in it. And I was really kind of shocked. For me, it was just something that, you know, it wasn't rocket science, but all of a sudden people were interested in that. You know, that for me is when it dawned on me that I wasn't trying to be somebody else. I wasn't trying to like, oh, you know what you should be in 2022, Todd? You should be this new dude, right? just talking about things you're experts in. And I think if we all looked, there's something that we're an expert in. Or let me flip that around. We're all experts in some very similar things, but nobody's talking about it.
Yeah.
So talk about it. Throw it out there.
Yeah. No, that's amazing. And do you have a plan to come up with ideas? I mean, there are several ways to do that, right? But maybe you have a plan so I love client calls, for example. There's always something you can write about, like an anecdote or something. Do you have similar sources?
A lot of it comes from just plugging into the pre-sales community right now.
Mm-hmm.
I'll be honest. And there's such rich resources. So I mentioned the 2 podcasts earlier, Pre-Sales Collective.
Yeah.
I really feel like they are on the pulse of a lot of things. So I tap into that. The books coming out are incredible. I will tell you, what really spurred it for me was Garen's book, Selling is Hard, Buying is Harder. Read that while we were evaluating consensus. And once you understand the concept of buyer enablement, I couldn't stop thinking about it. I was dreaming about it. I was waking up in my sleep about it. And so that like when I get that level of conviction, that I think helps me with confidence. Because there's just this level of conviction. And I think, it relates back to Q Branch and that first idea of why did you start it? It was I was so convinced that there had to be a team that would focus on code so that I could focus on customers. I couldn't shake it. And I was telling everyone about it. And I was getting mad about it. And I was getting mean about it. And anyone that was listening to it, I'm barista at the coffee shop. I'm you know what we need, So for me, that's kind of a big step in this is this level of passion and conviction. And if it's not there, I just don't have the confidence to rant and rave and post about it.
And that's exactly what Adam says, right? So just having Adam online again, confidence often separates influencers from contributors, right?
Yeah, and I'm just going to Venmo Adam here real quick. Just kidding.
No, Adam, you're absolutely right. So yeah, I would actually. So there are a lot of in quotes. I hear people say LinkedIn is fairy dust content. It's not authentic, right? You praise things for things that are not to be praised, right? But
yeah,
what I don't like about that, those comments are from people who don't contribute. So it's in your own hands. Please create the content you would love to see. And we are all better off, right? Because we inspire each other. The level goes up. This is what we want. This is what LinkedIn wants. That's what we want, right?
Patrick, the best example of that, and again, Adam's going to laugh because I'm just going to quote him on some of this stuff, is we see all the come work for this company out on LinkedIn, right? So it came from recruiting, it came from marketing. There's nothing personal about it. And then but on the flip side, you see some pre-sales leaders out there or leaders out there that are come work for me. Here's what you get when you work for me. Here's what we do. Here's what I believe. They're crushing it. And I say that because some of those people are our competitors, and it's scary. They're crushing it.
Yep. Conviction runs the world. Hi, Kyle. Good that you're here. So true. Yeah. I mean, and I see this too, empty shares from your marketing department. Nobody gains anything from that, right? Not even a post, because the LinkedIn algorithm will put a penalty on that. And I think the big thing is that it's not made for a communication, right? Because a post needs comments. They need interaction, right? So when you post something, even repost, please at least put your opinion there. Otherwise, it would be just, hey, Todd, here's this amazing book that was on my bookshelf. I haven't read it, but I think you will find it valuable.
Yeah.
What's that, right?
It goes back to, I think, the beginning, what we talked about. That light bulb moment for me was when I could separate me speaking versus, I'm trying to speak on behalf of the company. everything I'm talking about today is my experience and from me. I'm not here to speak on behalf of Salesforce. I'm not qualified to do that. I'm not credentialed to do that. It's a big company, and so what might be true in one part of it's not true in the other. So I think that is kind of your beginning. Is it's got to be about you, right? And you got to have that confidence that what you're sharing is about you, and go from there.
Still, so I believe so. And correct me if I'm wrong. You shouldn't shy away from leveraging that you're working at Salesforce, because it's an amazing platform. So I believe when you start out a journey on social media with something like Salesforce in the back, you have you have a huge springboard, right? So it's actually easier because you have more exposure.
Yeah.
You know more, you have more tools. You could record a demo of yourself, right? And from the newest shiny thing and just post it, for example, right?
Yeah. I mean, to your point, riding the shoulders of giants is not a bad thing,
Yeah.
So yeah.
So you can't do so much things wrong, right? So hi, Elias, good to see you. Elias says, find your passion, follow it even without the desire for outside validation and praise. Yeah. If you believe in it, others will follow you, and eventually the rocket ship takes off. Yeah. And you're so right, Elias, but doesn't it take like a long breath? Right? You really need to convince yourself to go on a marathon. Or what do you think, Todd? So you had an 18-month journey. What about your people following you? What happened? Did people reach out to you? What happened?
Yeah, I mean, connecting with a lot of people on LinkedIn. The point that I like that Elias is making here, I don't think I've ever gone back and looked at how many likes or shares my LinkedIn posts have gotten, or
perfect.
I honestly have no idea how many people have listened to a podcast I've done. I actually just don't care. So I really like what Elias is saying there, but yeah, that has been probably the most incredible part of this journey. And maybe, I know we're coming at time here, maybe a great thing to end on is, I've met Adam through this journey, right? Would not have met him without a pandemic and something like the Pre-Sales Collective coming together. Consensus has been an incredible community, and they have a fantastic product, but the book itself, it's a little bit like the handbook for us right now as an industry, right? Selling is hard, buying is harder. So this is one thing that strikes me about our industry. We care about each other. Curiosity is a theme, but I think integrity is also a theme.
Absolutely.
Two pre-sales on the pod, their last episode was titled "Are You Okay?" It was a whole episode on mental health. And Don Carmichael opens up, completely transparent, vulnerable, threw something out there that stopped me in my walk. I was walking around, I was listening to it, and it just stopped me, and my eyes welled up because I could relate to it. And at the end of the episode, they're like, "Call us, connect with us. Are you okay? If you're not, call us." And I'm like, where in our industry, where in other professions is that happening? I mean, it gives me chills as I talk about it. This is a very kind and generous and caring community.
It definitely is. And I would say that those are the best words to actually end this talk, right? Thank you so much, Todd, for being here. And I hope you enjoyed the show also. Is there anything else you would love to put on top for our community?
No, the hour went by really fast, and my only hope is that there was something in here for someone. I hope it didn't waste anyone's time. I'm here to help us propel us as a profession, and that's really my passion. I want us to all have a louder voice. I want us to have a bigger seat at the table, and that's why I'm happy to come do this stuff. But it's certainly not for how many likes or anything like that.
Yeah, I'm so grateful you have come to the show. The show will be posted online on LinkedIn and YouTube, so everybody can watch it. Please send us comments even when you watch the recording, because we will still see it and be able to answer it. So if everything comes up, and I know a lot of people watch it afterwards. Thanks everybody for commenting. It was great to have you here. Yeah, click subscribe at YouTube when you're there. Other than that, Todd, it was a huge pleasure. See you soon.